Hellraiser, the abominably exciting world erected by the great writer and artist, Clive Barker, is often seen as the dominion of the Cenobites, and while the Cenobites are the main attraction, Hell would literally cease to be if it weren't for its vicious demons. These demons are indispensable to Hell's functioning. They are its protectors and providers, and come in absolutely horrifying creature designs. I mean, the demons are just different. Okay? They bring that crazy, awful imagery that'll drop the jaw of even the sturdiest of horror fans. Every one of these demons' task is more vital than the last, and they get it done with a vengeance. Since we have been covering Cenobites for a bit now, I reckon it's time we got into the laser-focused Hellraiser demons, explore their twisted world, and check out what makes them so crucial to Leviathan's order. Before we get into it, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin with the one demon Leviathan just could not do without. Guardian of the Lament configuration. For anyone who has reached that jaded juncture where life has become a complete drag, and one's deep-seated desires just unattainable taboos, the Guardian of the Lament configuration, or an eremite, is a godsend. What's your pleasure, sir? He asks to pull you in, and if you're dulled down by a mundane existence ticking away without consequence, you may be tempted to answer. Such is the work of an eremite. An eremite is Leviathan's direct agent on Earth, who delivers the puzzle boxes to humans. He lives on Earth, surrounded by our meaty race, sniffs out the ones among us that are teeming with lust and desire, and then begins its work. He lures people into his snare, and then deals out his precious puzzle boxes. Eremites usually walk around the planet in a human body. They may take the shape of the lowest level of human condition, like a poor beggar, which lets them go about their work without raising any eyebrows. But don't go judging the book by its cover, because a cover is what that human flesh is. An eremite's true form is a massive skeletal dragon, complete with wings and tapering long claws. Also, this demonic creature has some tricks up his hollow, bony body. He is endowed with the abilities to shapeshift, resist fire, and of course, use its tattered wings to take flight. Eremites have featured in many films from the Hellraiser series, as well as in the comics. But the most interesting, albeit disgusting, story related to them is about their conception and the delivery of the Le Marchand's box into their care. Eremites are the children of the Cenobite Orno and a human woman. Now, one has got to wonder, how is that even possible? Well, in short, Orno sends his essence to Earth through a guy fresh off the boat from hell. This guy goes about impregnating a woman, and then ta-da, an eremite is born, a cuddly baby, just like any other, that will become a dangerous hell worker one day. It's tragic, but that's hell for you. The eremite's dad, Orno, is a Cenobite who fashions new paths to hell, with boxes similar to Le Marchand's. In Clive Barker's Hellraiser, Maze of the Mind, we actually get to see Orno beget a kid. This is how it goes down. Some lesser Cenobites bring in a poor sod, raw material, as the Cenobites call him. He is affixed on a chair with the help of some clawed tubes that flood the raw material with Orno's baby-making essence. Orno then opens up the raw material's skull and plunges his hands inside his brain. Orno feels out the raw material's desires, then pulls his hand, which is dripping with yellow brain mush, and licks that thing off. It is top-notch gut-churning art and completely wicked Hellraiser style. Orno, lastly, infects the raw material with mad carnal desire and then opens a gateway back to the Earth for him. The raw material lands on Earth and mates with the first woman he comes across, and then promptly drops dead. With the raw material's job done, his time is simply over. But the woman conceives, and 9 months later, she too dies in the labor room. The kid grows up nice and healthy though, and on his 16th birthday, he receives a mysterious present, a puzzle box that is destined to guard and share with the worthy degenerates, so they may make their descent into hell. It is purely because of the eremite's work that humans got their hands on the puzzle boxes in the first place, making them one of the most essential cogs in Hellraiser's overarching premise, the Earth to Hell ride. Next up, we've got Hell's own princess. Angelique. Pinhead is not the only favorite of the Lord of Hell, because Leviathan also had a daughter, Angelique, the original Princess of Hell. She spent a few hundred years in the living dimension, trying to botch every attempt of Le Marchand and his brood, creating a configuration that would destroy the agents of Hell. But when she met Pinhead, she realized that Hell was not the same bittersweet place she once belonged to. Angelique is a sadomasochistic marvel, with her shaved scalp ripped in half and its skin stretched open by clamps, hooked to her shoulders. She always dons a hot leather outfit with cutouts exposing the hooks dug into her stomach and chest. Angelique was introduced in Hellraiser, Bloodline, a film directed by Kevin Yeager and Joe Chappelle, the fourth of the Hellraiser series. The story goes, in the 18th century, a French toy maker, Philippe Le Marchand, created the Le Marchand box. He did not realize this puzzle box would open up the Hell dimension. A ritual was performed with the box, and Angelique arrived in the living world. She wears the skin of a girl sacrificed for the ritual and inhabits the body forever after that. Angelique and a servant of the French guy who had the Le Marchand box made, Jacques, kill Le Marchand, so he is unable to make a second box to counter the evil work of the first. For 200 years, Angelique lived surrounded by humans without any trouble. She was equipped with powers people could never fathom. Well, she isn't Leviathan's kid for nothing. She kept Jacques alive with her dark magic for 2 centuries, but after all this time, a new threat to Hell emerged. Le Marchand's descendant, John Merchant, began to show signs of posing the same threat as the late Philippe Le Marchand. The man had the potential to tear down the lament configuration and permanently fence off the doors of hell. Angelique immediately got on her feet. When Jacques came in the way of her plans, she killed him too. I mean, he was daft enough to think having a relationship with a demon would be a good idea, so I guess he had that quick death coming. John Merchant had constructed a building that was an exact grand-scale replica of the lament configuration. When Angelique discovered this, she used an unsuspecting human to open the doorway to hell. To her surprise, Pinhead was the first to march out of the doorway. There is a Cenobite versus demon princess conflict here, as Pinhead and Angelique are on entirely different wavelengths. Pinhead believes in the order or pain and torture, whereas Angelique is into seduction and beguiling the living. However, they come together with the Siamese twin Cenobites and the Chatterer Beast and make a plan to ensure the building becomes Hell's greatest gateway to Earth. But John closes the gateway and turns all of them back to Hell. The Le Marchand bloodline survives. Angelique goes back to Hell and is turned into the mutilated and clamped Cenobite. In 2127, the newest Le Marchand descendant, Paul Merchant, summons the Hell Gang again, only to destroy them later on by activating the Elysium configuration, the inverse of Lament's configuration. While the Bloodline movie got pulled apart by the audience even worse than Angelique's scalp job in Hell, Angelique's character was definitely an interesting take on Hell's demon and something worth checking out for the fans. Now, let us foray into the grotesque with The Engineer. In the OG Hellraiser movie that started it all, Kirsty Cotton had the great misfortune of meeting the Engineer, who is Hellraiser's creepiest creature, and that is saying a hell of a lot. For such a memorable demon as him, it is a shame he never featured in another Hellraiser film. Maybe it was because Kirsty Cotton outran him just about every time, undermining some of his beast cred. The Engineer is a creature that one just can't watch, but has to. He is a long lump of skin, scales, and bones. Something of a humanoid scorpion. He has a set of dull cat eyes and a few rows of shark-like teeth. The Engineer tends to hang and crawl to get around, and may have the facility of growing bladed tentacles when he needs to, like the other Hell Engineers. There is a possibility that the Engineer was the first man to open the gates of Hell, by accident of course, though there is no specific canon explanation for his origin. It has been implied that he is an ancient soul, having been around longer than the Cenobites. He was twisted into his terrible form over his time, in the hellish dimension under Leviathan's command, in Clive Barker's Hellraiser, issue number 7, when Dr. Glenda Martinac opens the Heart of Damnation puzzle. The Engineer shows up alongside Saucy Jack, The Voice, Bright Eyes, and Butterball, horrified by the Cenobites. A news reporter, Hank Wendell, who was doing stories on Glenda's murders, stabs the puzzle box, and the Engineer and all the other Cenobites slaughter both Glenda and Hank out of anger. Hey, did you know that in Barker's original story, The Hellbound Heart, the Engineer was the main guy leading the Cenobites Christie comes up against? He was the leader of the Cenobites instead of Pinhead, and also a gifted mechanist who made most of the torture tools the Cenobites used on the damn souls. So, the next demon couple is a revolting yet mesmerizing dream almost. Let us check them out. Chidna and Basilisk. In a world often marked by lonely walls and cut-and-pin Cenobites inflicting torture on human souls, Chidna and Basilisk are a thing of beauty. Chidna is the female dancer who complements her male demon, Basilisk, with power and sinful symmetry, with every whirl and dip of their never-ending show. They are long and pale snake-like monsters, with humanoid faces and hands. The back of their heads and backs are crested with spiked fins, giving them almost a sea monster look. Chidna and Basilisk are glorious monsters, set in levitation by Leviathan. constantly gyrating and joining hands with one another in their deep recital. One would use words like elegant and divine to describe their unceasing art, but that doesn't mean they are not beings of hell. They are so, without a question. In fact, they are an expression of the exact order and discipline Leviathan dictates hell with. However, once a conflict had threatened to break the symmetry of these creatures, as it had the fabric of hell. Flagellum, the large watcher of the order who stays in a deep meditative state at the center of hell, dreaming of Chidna and Basilisk, going through their precise floating motions, was awakened by Leviathan. She was needed to curtail the chaos looming around the corner. She goes through the halls of hell and is shocked to find Chidna and Basilisk engaged in a nasty row. They had drawn blood and ripped off each other's fine form, abandoning their faith for anarchy, and Flagellum knew that something was off. Some events had been set in motion that needed to be stopped. It was the time of configuration, a juncture that could plunge hell into chaos. So she put together the Vasa Iniquitatis, a new gash of Cenobites, Abagor, Atkin, the foul-mouthed face, and everyone's top favorite guy, Pinhead. The Vasa Iniquitatis went to work and were, of course, successful in restoring order. Chidna and Basilisk went back to complementing each other's perfect flow, but this time they weren't so bouncy within. They had lost some of their devil-may-care attitude, because this time around, the devil did care very deeply. Leviathan had noted their fall from grace in the time of configuration, when they desperately needed to maintain order. Chidna and Basilisk knew Leviathan's revenge would come one day, and it won't be pretty. Marvelous verdict. The Hellraiser franchise is one of the most unique horror fantasies in entertainment history. This is especially true of the first two Hellraiser films that Barker had a hand in crafting, and of course, the comics. In a world inspired by sadomasochistic fashion, as well as religious nomenclature, the demons will uplift your spirits. They paint a very different picture of horror, with their simpler, one-track minds and motives, though they are no less intense, by any means. Aside from Angelique, who lived in a human body for most of her time, the other demons aren't leather-bound, disfigured Cenobites, but something different. They are creatures of the damned, rather than figurines of body horror, and they are absolutely worthy of their fame in hell. I would love to see more of them in the newer Hellraiser reboots that drop like every other year. Who knows? The demons might amp up the waning cinematic appeal of a franchise. Alright, that'll be that from us, guys. Don't forget to tell us which demon struck your fancy the most in the comments. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye for now.